Level 1. The Lab Technician. The room is cold. The air cycles through 12 times per hour. You wear a full bodysuit, gloves, and booties. 3 sets of doors stand between you and the hallway. Each requires a badge scan. The pressure inside is higher than outside. Nothing drifts in. Nothing drifts out. You are an ISO Class 5 cleanroom technician. Your job is to test the batch. That is all. The batch will become pills. How many pills, you do not know. Where they go, you do not know. What they cost at a pharmacy in Ohio, you do not know that either. You have never been asked. You pick up the vial. You place it in the spectroscopy chamber. You wait 90 seconds. The number appears. 99.7% purity. You write it in the log. You initial it. You move to the next vial. You earn $42,000 a year, before taxes. Your benefits package includes health insurance through the same company that makes the drugs you test. The standard operating procedures binder on your shelf is 200 pages long. You have read all of it. You follow it exactly. The SOP exists so that your work is reproducible, regardless of who is doing it. The SOP does not require you to know what happens downstream. You are one checkpoint in a chain of checkpoints. Your checkpoint is purity. You do purity. Each batch that leaves this room has been certified by you. Your initials are on every form. The forms go to a supervisor. The supervisor compiles the lot release documentation. The documentation goes to quality assurance. QA sends it to regulatory. Regulatory submits it to the FDA. Your name disappears along the way. By the time the drug reaches a shelf, only the label remains. On the label there is a lot number, an expiration date, a purity guarantee. And on the package insert, the paper folded small inside the box, there is another sentence. You have never read it. It says, "Delayed absorption is believed to reduce the abuse liability of a drug." You did not write that sentence. That was written somewhere else, by someone else, for reasons you will never need to understand. Your job is the number. Today the number is 99. 7. You initial the form. You move to the next vial. Outside, someone is getting in a company car. Level 2. The Pharmaceutical Sales Representative. The car has 38,000 miles on it. You have a box of samples in the back. You have a clipboard with 15 names on it. 15 offices today. Same route you drove last Tuesday. Same route you will drive next Tuesday. You believe in the product. That is important to understand. You were trained for 3 weeks. You learned the pharmacology. You learned the clinical data. You learned how to overcome objections. And you were told, in the training, in the materials, in every conversation with your manager, that this drug is less than 1% addictive. You believe it. Why would you not believe it? A 1980 letter published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that addiction is rare in patients treated with narcotics for pain. 38 patients, 5 sentences, no long-term follow-up. Purdue Pharma used that letter as the foundation of their sales training for 6 years. You did not know the study had 38 patients. You were told, the science supports this. You cited the science to every doctor on your route. According to records from the period, the average Purdue sales representative in 2001 earned a base salary of $55,000. Their average annual bonus was $71,500. Their bonus was larger than their salary. The company built it that way. If you needed them to push hard enough, you had to make them want it hard enough. You wanted it. The doctors liked you. One of them, a family practice physician in a rural county, started writing a dozen OxyContin prescriptions per week. You brought him lunch on Fridays, sandwiches. Sometimes you had a question about the label claim. You had an answer ready. You had the answer because your manager had given it to you, and your manager had gotten it from the regional VP, and the regional VP had gotten it from medical affairs. But you did not know that. You knew the answer worked. The doctor nodded. He picked up his prescription pad. You walked back to your car. You checked the next name on the list. A former Purdue sales representative named Carol Panara later told reporters, "It was always in the back of my mind that maybe the company had not told us the whole truth." Maybe. But maybe came later. In the car, pulling out of the parking lot, you believed what you had been taught. You moved to the next call. The label was the only authority you had. You cited it every day. Level 3. The District Sales Manager. You have a spreadsheet. The columns are physician name, specialty, zip code, total opioid scripts written last quarter, change versus the quarter before. Green means up, red means down. Every month you buy this data from a company called IMS Health. They aggregate prescription records from pharmacies across the country and sell it to you. You can see exactly which doctors in your territory wrote how many opioid scripts last month, down to the zip code. You know who your high-value targets are. You manage 12 sales reps. You go on ride-alongs. You sit in the passenger seat while they make their calls. You coach them on objection handling. If a doctor says the drug seems too strong, you tell your rep, remind them about the label claim. If a doctor says patients are coming back asking for more, you tell your rep, ask if they have considered a dose adjustment. There is always a script for the objection. You trained the reps on the script. You were trained on it yourself, 2 levels above. Your bonus is tied to territory RX growth. Territory RX growth is the only metric that matters. Your quarterly business review measures nothing else. The bonus is real money. It changes your family's life. It does not occur to you that this is the design. There is a doctor in the northern part of your territory. He operates a pain management clinic. His quarterly prescription volume is 3 times the county average. His zip code is rural. The county's poverty rate is above state average. His clinic has a 2-hour wait time every day of the week. In the data you see, he is highlighted green. He is one of your top prescribers. You have never met any of his patients. You have never needed to. The data shows what you need to know. In the discovery documents from the Senate Finance Committee investigation into opioid marketing practices, researchers found that manufacturers routinely used prescription-level data to target physicians writing large opioid volumes, directing sales resources toward the highest prescribers, regardless of clinical context. You did not know that investigation was coming. You were doing what the system asked you to do. The system was tracking doctors by prescription volume. You tracked doctors by prescription volume. You were performing correctly. At the end of the quarter, your territory is green. You send the results to your regional VP. You get a commendation in the all-hands email. You keep your spreadsheet open. You start planning next quarter. Level 4. The Medical Science Liaison. Your business card says Medical Affairs. It does not say Sales. That distinction matters. You are not a sales representative. You hold a Doctor of Pharmacy degree. You have been with the company for 4 years. You have published 2 papers. You attend medical conferences. You build relationships with key opinion leaders, the top physicians in their specialties. Your official role is scientific education. When physicians have complex clinical questions about the drug, questions the sales rep cannot answer, they call you. You are the credentialed layer. You went to school longer than anyone else in this field hierarchy. but your deployment schedule is not random. According to documents reviewed by the Senate Finance Committee, medical science liaisons at several major pharmaceutical companies were directed to physicians who had raised clinical concerns about opioid safety, physicians who had expressed skepticism about the addiction risk data, physicians who asked too many questions. You were sent to educate them. You did not see it that way at the time. You were answering their questions. You were providing scientific context. The slides you used were prepared by the medical communications team. They had been reviewed by legal. They had been approved by medical affairs. Every data point in the presentation was from a published study. You did not know which studies had been shelved. You knew the ones that had been published. You presented those. You answered questions. You listened. You reported back to medical affairs, not to sales. You never technically worked for sales. Your org chart put you firmly in the medical function. You told yourself this regularly. The physicians you visited often left the conversation reassured. The concerns they had raised did not disappear. They were contextualized, reframed, addressed with data that had been through the publication plan. You moved to the next physician on your schedule. Your credentials said you were independent. Your assignment came from a commercial strategy. In the hallway between those two things, you did your job well. You were excellent at it. But you were about to learn something. Something the sales rep did not know. Something the district manager did not know. You were about to meet the person who decided what the data would say. Level 5. The Director of Medical Affairs. Your title is Director of Medical Affairs. Your publication plan for Q3 has 4 journal articles, 2 review papers, and 1 meta-analysis. Your KOL list has 47 names. Their speaking fees range from $3,000 to $10,000 per engagement. Key opinion leaders are the top physicians in their specialties. They present at medical conferences. They appear in educational videos. They sit on advisory boards. When a doctor in a rural county sees a presentation on pain management at a continuing education seminar, the physician at the front of the room is often one of yours. The slides behind him were built by your medical communications agency. They were reviewed by legal. They were approved by your team. He presented them. His name is on the program. His independent status is how the audience knows to trust him. A 2009 study published in PLOS Medicine, a peer-reviewed journal, found that an estimated 10.9% of articles in 6 major medical journals that year involved ghostwriting, where pharmaceutical companies or their agencies prepared the manuscripts and academic authors were invited to sign them. The studies that were published came through your office. The studies that were not published also came through your office. The ones that showed favorable results went into the submission pipeline. The ones that showed concerning results went into the file. Not destroyed, filed. Available for discovery, if it ever came to that. Your lawyers confirmed that this was permissible before you started. The sales rep at Level 2 cited the clinical data. The medical science liaison at Level 4 presented the clinical data. You selected the clinical data. You decided which trials would be submitted to which journals, in which sequence, to build the most favorable evidentiary base for the label claim. You did not fabricate a single number. Every study was real. Every result was accurate. The selection was not random. That is different from fabrication. The lawyers confirmed this too. Your performance review asks how many high-impact publications you generated this quarter. The number is 4. You move to the next quarter. There is something else you know. A conference where a cardiologist presented your company's data to 300 physicians. He was paid $8,400 for the engagement. After the presentation, 12 physicians in the room increased their opioid prescribing. You have a slide showing this. The slide is in the commercial file, not the medical file. You know it exists. You have never been asked about it. The sales force cites your publications with confidence. They believe the science is independent. It is real. The independence was managed. That is your job, and you have done it correctly. Level 6. The Regional Vice President of Sales. You own 3 districts, 350 sales representatives, 4 million physician contacts annually. One number that matters: RX growth, quarter over quarter. At this level, the word patient no longer appears in your vocabulary. You use words like prescriber, covered life, market share, and territory penetration. These are the correct words. They are precise. Patient implies a specific human being in a specific body with a specific condition. Prescriber is the decision-maker in the territory. You manage prescribers. You do not manage patients. According to emails reviewed during Senate opioid investigations, executives at pharmaceutical companies received regular reports on regional prescription milestones. When targets were hit, the emails were celebratory. When numbers were declining, the emails prompted action, more resources, more ride-alongs, more MSL deployments. No email in the chain contained mortality data from the zip codes where sales were strongest. That data existed. It was published by the CDC. It appeared in newspapers. It did not appear in your quarterly business review. Your quarterly business review measured what you were responsible for. Your Q3 results are strong. RX growth is up 8% over the same period last year. You send the slide to your national VP. You present it at the quarterly business review. Your team is performing. You use the word performing because that is what the system measures. Performing means the metric is moving in the right direction. In the year your region hit its RX growth target, that same year, 49,000 Americans died from opioid overdoses. That number was published by the Department of Health and Human Services when they declared the crisis a public health emergency. That number did not appear in your quarterly business review. You were responsible for RX growth. RX growth was up 8%. Somewhere in your territory, a rural ER physician is seeing her 4th opioid overdose this week. She does not know your name. She does not know the name of anyone in this hierarchy. She knows the drug name on the bottle. The drug name is on the label. The label came from regulatory affairs. She is treating the patient. You're preparing the next quarterly slide. The system is working correctly. The number is good. Level 7. The Vice President of Regulatory Affairs. Your office has a direct line to the FDA. You have read every piece of guidance the agency has published in the past 15 years. You know what the label can say. You wrote it. A drug label is the most important legal document in the pharmaceutical industry. It defines what sales representatives can say to physicians legally. Anything on the label is fair to cite. Anything off the label is off-label promotion. Off-label promotion is a federal crime. Fines for off-label promotion have ranged from $300 million to $3 billion in historical settlements. The label is where everything is decided. The label is what the sales rep at Level 2 cited in 15 offices today. The label is what the medical science liaison used when she answered a resistant doctor's questions. The label is the origin of every claim in this system. In 1995, your predecessor, the Vice President of Regulatory Affairs at the time, negotiated the OxyContin label with the FDA. The final approved language contained this sentence: Delayed absorption is believed to reduce the abuse liability of a drug. That sentence was presented to the FDA as supported by clinical evidence. The FDA approved it. 5,000 sales representatives then cited it in every office, on every route, in every state. They cited it to physicians for 6 years. In 2007, the United States Department of Justice announced that Purdue Pharma LP pled guilty to federal charges of misbranding OxyContin by fraudulently misrepresenting the drug as less addictive and less subject to abuse than other pain medications. The fine was $634.5 million. 3 executives pled guilty personally. The company continued operations. The label sentence came from Regulatory Affairs. It was reviewed by Legal. It was approved by the FDA. It was cited by the sales force. And it was found, 12 years later, to have been misleading. You did not write that sentence. Your predecessor did. But you work in the same office. You use the same process. You have the same direct line to the FDA, and you are currently negotiating the language for the next label amendment. Every word will be reviewed by 3 lawyers. Every word will be technically accurate. Accuracy of individual words does not determine the meaning of a sentence. You know this. You are very good at your job. Level 8. The Chief Medical Officer. You have a medical license. That is the most important thing to understand about your role. You went to medical school. You completed a residency. You have a license that you renew every 2 years. It hangs on the wall of your office. When the company says our decisions are medically sound, they mean our Chief Medical Officer is a physician. He reviewed it. He approved it. His license says he is qualified to make medical decisions. You earn between $1.5 and $2.5 million a year in total compensation. You report to the CEO. You are a member of the executive leadership team. Your title is Chief Medical Officer. You are the reason the company can make that claim. Your clinical responsibilities include signing off on clinical protocols, reviewing the publication plan, approving label language from a medical perspective, and representing the company's medical credibility to professional organizations and regulatory bodies. You also sit on 2 industry advisory boards. You speak at 2 medical conferences per year. You represent science. You have been deposed twice in opioid litigation. Both times, opposing counsel asked you about the data you approved. Both times, your answers were accurate. Your lawyers prepared you thoroughly. Accuracy was not in question. What was in question was what you knew and when you knew it. You knew the published data. You approved the clinical protocols that generated the published data. You were copied on the marketing strategy memoranda, not as a decision maker, but as the medical sign-off. Your initials are on documents your lawyers would prefer you not discuss. The documents are in discovery. Everything is in discovery. On earnings calls, the camera is on the CEO when he speaks. When an analyst asks a question about clinical trial results, the CEO turns to you. The camera follows. You answer. You are always accurate. You have never said anything untrue. You have said everything that needed to be said, and nothing more. Accuracy and completeness are not the same standard. You learned this in deposition. You have not forgotten it. Your license is active. You renew it this spring. Level 9. The General Counsel. 3,000 lawsuits. 46 states. The largest pharmaceutical tort in American history. This is your desk. You manage a team of 200 internal and external attorneys. Your day begins at 6 in the morning reviewing discovery documents. Your day ends when the work stops, which is never. You are one of the most powerful people in the company. Nobody outside the company knows your name. The litigation arrived in waves. First, the state attorneys general, then the counties, then the cities, then the federal government. Each filing added documents to discovery. Each set of documents required review. The Purdue Pharma opioid litigation produced more than 90 million pages of discovery documents. In those documents was an email, sent in January 2001 by Richard Sackler, then president of Purdue Pharma. The email was sent after he received a report about a high school meeting where mothers whose children had died from OxyContin overdoses gathered to speak. Sackler wrote, "We have to hammer on abusers in every way possible. They are the culprits and the problem. They are the reckless criminals." This email was introduced into the public record through the Minnesota Attorney General's complaint filed in 2019. In 2019, Purdue Pharma filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The bankruptcy consolidated the litigation. The Sackler family members negotiated a settlement, $4.5 billion in payments. In exchange, the bankruptcy proceedings shielded them from future personal civil lawsuits related to opioids. The mechanism was legal. Bankruptcy courts have been used this way before. Your team understood the mechanism thoroughly. The plan was engineered over 24 months by some of the most expensive attorneys in the country. The settlement was approved. The lawsuits closed. The file is in archive. There are new files on your desk. There are always new files. You work in a system that generates litigation, the way the factory floor generates pills, continuously, in batches, with quality control at every stage. You sign off on the next settlement. You do not consider whether the settlement is just. Justice is not the legal standard your team is retained to measure. You are retained to minimize exposure. Exposure has been minimized. The cycle continues. There is always another file. Level 10. The Chief Executive Officer. February 8, 2024. Room G-50. The Dirksen Senate Office Building, Washington, D.C. You sit at a table. 2 security personnel stand behind you. In front of you are microphones, cameras, and members of the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. The hearing is called The Outrageous Cost of Prescription Drugs. Senator Bernie Sanders is chairing. He holds up a bottle, the cancer drug Keytruda. It costs $191,000 per year in the United States. In Japan, the same drug costs $44,000 per year. Same molecule, same company, different country. The senator asks, "Are you comfortable with that?" The Merck CEO, Robert Davis, answers, "I believe our pricing is fair and transparent." You are not the CEO of Merck, but you are in the same room. You face the same questions. Your company's flagship drug costs 4 to 7 times more in the United States than in comparable markets. You have prepared remarks. Your lawyers reviewed the remarks. Your communications team refined them over 3 days. The remarks are accurate. The remarks do not answer the question being asked. This is not an accident. Your total compensation last year was between $24 and $32 million. The CEO to median employee pay ratio at your company is above 200 to 1. That number appears in your proxy statement, which is a public document filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission. It does not appear in your prepared remarks. It was not asked about today. The hearing lasts 2.5 hours. There are no binding outcomes. No legislation passes as a result of this hearing. Senators ask questions. Executives answer questions. The gap between question and answer is where pharmaceutical pricing in America lives. This hearing is the third one in 6 years on the same topic. Nothing has changed since the first one. You have made decisions that affect hundreds of millions of people. Some of them died from drugs your company made. Some of them were saved by drugs your company made. You have never met any of them. In 50 years of pharmaceutical history, no CEO of a major company has been held personally, criminally responsible for an opioid death. The hearing ends. You stand. Your security team is already at the door. The car is outside. Your next earnings call is in 11 days. You will be asked about guidance and margin expansion. You will answer accurately. The stock will respond. A reporter outside asks a question. Your communications director steps in front of you. The car door closes. The driver pulls out. You read your briefing notes for the next meeting. The briefing notes do not mention today's hearing. That file is closed. The label on the pill bottle in the senator's hand was approved 29 years ago by a VP of Regulatory Affairs, whose name nobody in that room knows. You have never needed to know it either. At level 1, you ran the test. You wrote the number down. The batch passed. 99.7% purity. Your initials are on the form. At level 10, you sat in the Senate chamber. A senator held up a bottle. He pointed to the label. The label said, "Delayed absorption is believed to reduce the abuse liability of a drug." That sentence was written before you arrived. It was negotiated. It was approved. It was cited. For 6 years, 5,000 sales representatives cited it to physicians across the country. In 2007, the company that wrote it paid $634.5 million and pled guilty to using it to mislead. Between the lab and the Senate chamber, 806,000 Americans died from opioid overdoses. No one at any level was asked to kill anyone. No one at any level refused. The system called it medicine. The system called it market share. The system called it legal. The system called it a supply chain. The system called it a label claim. The system never called it a body count. There is a label, a small white rectangle on a glass vial. It says, purity, 99.7%. A technician in a clean room wrote that number down. She has worked in that room for 3 years. She earns $42,000 a year. She does not know where the vial is going. She does not know what it will cost when it reaches a pharmacy shelf. Between 1999 and 2023, 806,000 Americans died from opioid overdoses. It started with a sales pitch. It ended with a bankruptcy filing. And at every point between those two events, someone was doing their job. This is a pharmaceutical company. 10 levels, 1 system. You will work every single one of them. The cycle